The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. It bled against the windows like someone desperately knocking to be let in. When Ryan Hale stepped out of the cab in front of the old brick building on 9th Avenue, he felt an immediate chill crawl under his skin. The kind that wasn't caused by cold, but by silence. The building was old, abandoned-looking, yet somehow alive. The lights flickered from the third floor, the only sign of life in what looked like a forgotten part of the city. The signboard above the main door read Evergreen Apartments, a name far too cheerful for the smell of mold and dust that greeted him when he stepped inside. He had moved to the city just last week, a fresh start after his divorce, a new job, and an even newer therapist who told him he needed to reconnect with reality, whatever that meant. The landlady, Mrs. Keene, met him in the narrow hallway. She was in her late 60s, wearing a maroon cardigan and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You're the one renting 13, right?" she asked, her voice almost curious. "Yeah, is that a problem?" Her smile flickered. "Not at all, dear. Most people avoid it. But you don't seem superstitious." Ryan gave a small, humorless laugh. "Not really. I've had worse luck than any number could bring." She led him up 3 flights of creaky stairs. The hallway got narrower as they went, the light bulbs humming faintly overhead. When they stopped in front of room No. 13, Ryan noticed something strange. The door looked newer than the others. A fresh coat of paint, a shiny brass handle, as if someone had replaced it recently. Mrs. Keene handed him the keys. "If you need anything, my room's downstairs. And ... try not to stare at the peephole too long." Ryan frowned. "Excuse me." She gave a stiff smile. "Some tenants said it makes them ... dizzy." Before he could ask more, she was already halfway down the stairs. Inside, the room smelled faintly of varnish and something metallic, like old coins. It was small but tidy. A bed, a desk, a window overlooking the alley, and a mirror hanging directly opposite the door. He dropped his bags and sank onto the bed. The silence of the room pressed against his ears. Later that night, as the rain grew heavier, Ryan noticed the peephole Mrs. Keene had mentioned. It was oddly wide, larger than normal. And unlike others, this one wasn't made of glass. It looked like a small, dark hollow drilled right into the wood. When he leaned close, he expected to see the dimly lit hallway outside. Instead, he saw an eye staring back. He stumbled backward, heart racing, but when he blinked, the hole was empty, just darkness. He laughed nervously, blaming exhaustion. Maybe it was a reflection, maybe his mind playing tricks. But that night, sleep refused to come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that eye again, grey, unblinking, watching. The next morning, Ryan woke up to scratching sounds near the door. When he opened it, no one was there. Just a small envelope lying on the floor. Inside, a note typed, not handwritten. "Do not trust what you see." No name, no explanation. He looked both ways down the hall, empty. Only the faint smell of bleach lingered in the air. Ryan shoved the note in his pocket and left for work, but all day the image of the eye haunted him. His co-workers noticed his distraction. His boss, a middle-aged man with a coffee addiction, even joked, "You look like you've seen a ghost." Ryan smiled weakly. "Maybe I have." That night, when he returned, he noticed something off. The mirror opposite his door was tilted slightly, as if someone had moved it. He hadn't touched it since unpacking. He straightened it back, but as he did, something caught his eye, a faint outline behind the reflection, like a dark figure standing inside the mirror. He blinked. Gone. By midnight, the rain returned. The sound of dripping water echoed from somewhere inside his apartment. He checked the sink, the bathroom, even the window, all dry. But when he passed by the peephole again, he froze. There it was, the eye closer this time. Ryan's breath caught. He whispered, almost to himself, "Who's there?" No answer, just the faint rhythmic sound of breathing, not his own, coming from the other side of the door. He turned the lights on and backed away, but when he looked again, the peephole was gone, just smooth wood where it had been before. He ran his hand over it. Solid. No hole, no trace. "Jesus," he muttered. Maybe he was losing it. His therapist had mentioned hallucinations tied to stress. Maybe it was happening again. He sat on the bed, gripping his head. "It's just my mind. Just my mind." Then knock, knock, knock. 3 slow taps at the door. Ryan froze. He waited. Nothing. He walked closer, heart hammering. "Who's there?" Silence. Then he noticed something on the floor again. Another envelope slid under the door. Inside, just 2 words this time. "It's watching." He dropped the note, backed away slowly. The mirror caught his reflection, except his reflection wasn't moving. It was staring at him, unmoving, unblinking, and in its left eye, the same grey iris he had seen through the door. That was the first night he dreamed of the room. Not his room, but the real room. No, 13. In the dream, the walls pulsed like veins. The floor was wet with something dark, and the door had no handle, only an eye in the center, watching. He woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. The mirror cracked, and when he looked closer, there was a smear of blood under the frame, shaped like a fingerprint. Ryan hadn't really slept. The storm outside had quieted, but inside room 13, the silence pressed on his skull like a weight. The cracked mirror still hung crooked on the wall, a jagged web splitting his reflection in 2. Half of him looked real, the other half didn't. He stood before it, trying to convince himself it was only glass. "It's just a mirror," he whispered. Just a damn mirror. But when he blinked, the reflection blinked late. A fraction of a second too slow. He backed away. Downstairs, Mrs. Keene sat behind her desk, reading an old newspaper. Her eyes lifted when she saw him. "You look pale, Mr. Hale. Bad night." He hesitated. "Someone slipped a note under my door. Twice. actually, and the mirror, it broke. Then it wasn't broken. She smiled faintly, as if she'd heard this before. This place has a way of reflecting what's inside, she said, meaning her eyes didn't blink. Don't look too long at what looks back. He left without replying. Her words clung to him like smoke. By the time he returned that evening, exhaustion had turned into fear. The door to his apartment stood slightly open. "Hello," he called. No answer. Inside, everything seemed untouched, except the mirror. It was whole again, clean, shining, and perfectly centered, as if nothing had happened. He felt his chest tighten. Slowly, he approached. The reflection looked wrong. The lighting, the angle, everything slightly off, like he was watching himself from a second ago. And then his reflection smiled. Ryan stumbled backward, heart pounding. The mirror rippled like a drop had fallen into still water. He blinked, and it was normal again. His own terrified face stared back. He sat on the edge of his bed, trying to breathe. "You're not losing it," he whispered. "You've been under pressure. It's all in your head." But the room didn't feel empty anymore. It felt aware. He turned toward the door, and the peephole was back. Perfectly round, smooth, dark. Against every instinct, he stepped closer, bent down, looked through. At first, nothing. Then movement. A slow, deliberate blink. He staggered away, tripping over his chair. His heart hammered so hard it hurt. Someone was on the other side, watching it. That night, he left every light on. He tried music, TV, even talking to himself to drown out the dread. But around 3 a.m., the static from the TV changed, faint whispers under the noise. You looked, he muted it instantly. The voice didn't stop. It came from behind him now, from the door. "You looked, and now we see." He froze. "Who are you?" Silence. Then a soft knock. He forced himself to the door, knife in hand. He ripped it open. Nothing. The hallway was pitch dark, but when he turned back inside, the mirror was glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat, and in it his reflection was still standing. But he hadn't moved. It tilted its head slowly, eyes grey, mouth curling into a smile. Then, in a voice that matched his own, "You let it in." Ryan woke on the floor at dawn, drenched in sweat. The knife was gone. The lights were off. The mirror spotless. Had he dreamed it? He rushed to the door. When he opened it, his stomach dropped. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions, door after door after door. Every one marked 13. He whispered, "No." He started running, until finally a voice whispered from the dark, "You're already inside." He turned, and the door behind him now read Room 13, his own room, waiting for him. That night, Ryan stopped trying to fight it. He sat before the mirror, staring at his reflection until his own eyes blurred. He spoke softly. "What do you want?" The reflection smiled faintly. "To see what you see." Then the peephole began to drip thick black tears crawling down the wood. The walls pulsed with each drop, and Ryan finally understood what Mrs. Keene meant. The building didn't haunt people, it absorbed them. His last thought before the darkness reached him was that maybe the reflection was the real one all along. Ryan no longer knew how long he had been inside room 13. The world outside the window didn't move. Raindrops hung frozen in the air. Cars mid-motion. People locked in silence. Time had stopped. Only the grey light remained. The mirror across from him breathed faintly. Every few seconds it exhaled. A thin mist spreading across the glass. He had stopped eating, stopped speaking. His eyes were hollow, fixed on the reflection that wasn't quite his own. Sometimes it smiled. Sometimes it whispered. And when it whispered, it always said the same thing. You looked. A knock echoed through the room. 3 slow taps. Ryan flinched. He hadn't heard another sound in days. Who's there? He rasped. A calm voice answered Mrs. Keene. Open up, dear. I need to check on you. He hesitated, then unlatched the door. Mrs. Keene stood there, smiling softly, but her eyes grey. monkey, the same shade he'd seen in the peephole. You shouldn't have stared, she said. The room remembers. He stepped back. What do you mean? The eye doesn't haunt people, Ryan. It shows them. Everything they hide. Her voice deepened, distorted. It showed you, didn't it? His heart raced. You're not real. Neither are you anymore. Her skin cracked. Her face folded in on itself until there was nothing. Just a single unblinking eye. Then she was gone. The door closed by itself. The mirror rippled. Ryan's reflection was speaking now, though his own lips didn't move. You came here to forget, it said. He whispered, forget what? The reflection smiled. Hurt. Images flashed behind his eyes. His wife. The car crash. The scream. The blood. Memories he had buried, now bleeding back through. He had caused it. He had killed her. The reflection tilted its head. You thought moving here would erase guilt. But guilt doesn't leave. It watches watches. Ryan stepped forward. What are you? I'm you. The part that never stopped watching. The mirror pulsed, then opened. A grey iris spread across the glass, blinking once before the world turned inside out. He woke standing in the hallway. Everything looked normal again. Warm light, clean air. Mrs. Keene appeared with a clipboard. Morning, Mr. Hale, ready to sign the lease. He stared at her. Lease. She smiled. For room 13, you just arrived. He looked down. The papers were blank. His name written neatly in black ink. When he looked up again, she was gone. Only the open door remained. He stepped inside. Weeks later, a new tenant toured the building. Mrs. Keene led her up the stairs. It's cozy, the young woman said. Which room? Mrs. Keene smiled faintly. Number 13. A quiet one. The door stood ajar. Inside, the mirror reflected the empty room. And in the reflection, deep within the glass, a grey My eye blinked slowly, watching